How would you approach your life if all of a sudden you were just freed from the burden of justifying your current actions through the lens of your past experiences? That's an interesting question to introspect over. I'm reading this book at the moment by Emil Cioran. He's a former Romanian philosopher, and his view on the world is extremely nihilistic. If you're not familiar with the term nihilism, I'd say nihilism is basically seeing no point in anything. And we could argue that it's a very depressing and dark view on the world. And indeed, a lot of his quotes in his work is very dark. But I believe there is value to be taken from it. And I personally have been able to take some value from it. And I came to the conclusion to the realization that maybe we should view the past like a nihilist. Maybe we should be completely detached from the past and just look in the past when we need to bring valuable information and data. Because isn't that the purpose of the past in the first place? Why do we have the memories? So they can guide us in the present. But oftentimes we just bring so useless data in the present. We bring trauma. What if we just let go of the past? And this is the frame of mind that I propose we should all adopt, viewing the past as a nihilist, but viewing the present and the future in a very optimistic way, in a very hopeful way. Because why would you give so much attention to the past? It's just a choice. It's not necessarily a conscious choice. It might be quite subconscious, but it's a choice ultimately. Because I'm absolutely certain there are two persons right here, right now on Earth, who went through pretty much the same life situations, and they both experienced one traumatic event, let's say. But person A went through that event, and after it was finished, they were just like, okay, it sucked, it felt horrible, but I have to move on with my life. And person B was just like, oh my god, I'm so frightened, and I'm gonna justify every single action I take to avoid situations like this, to avoid similar situations to this one that happened. So this just proves that it's a choice. And if you have some trauma, if you can point to a certain traumatic event from your past that you feel like is guiding you in the present, just know that there is someone out there that experienced the same thing and they chose not to give attention to it. And they are free now. They are so much freer than you. So you can do that as well. That's a breakthrough. The thing is that sometimes in the past, after you experienced some traumatic event, you took a decision to justify everything based on that event. You were in an unclear state of mind. Maybe you were still agitated from the traumatic moment. Maybe you were too young to view it properly. And you took a decision to give it attention. That decision was put on autopilot. And it just snowballed. It just continued to rule you over the years. And it's still on autopilot. You have to break out consciously of this autopilot. And when it clicks, it clicks. When it clicks, you just realize that this is the truth and you don't have to justify everything through the lens of your trauma. Why would we choose to be so nostalgic? Why would we choose to give so much attention to our traumas? Why is it so mainstream nowadays? Because in the recent years, this is what happened. We were all so encouraged. Trauma was so emphasized. It's so important to be aware of your trauma, to give attention to your trauma. And there is so much energy, so much discussion around this topic of trauma that we end up just talking about it more than trying to solve it actually. And how do we solve it? Well, sometimes you have to just feel the emotions that needed to be felt back then. But sometimes just acknowledging that you don't have to bring it in the present anymore, that's enough. And I'm not necessarily into conspiracy theories and all these people talk about how the government controls us. I don't really care about those topics, but it's arguably an interesting case that trauma is so mainstream nowadays and everyone encourages us to give attention to our traumas instead of solving them. I'm not sure why that happens, but what I know is that, as I said, looking at the past and being so attached to the past brings depression. You know, I was always extremely nostalgic. I always looked back with so much nostalgia over my memories in the past. But I kind of broke free from that. And oh my god, it's so freeing when you are just able to look in the future and to work in the present in order to have a better future. To try to be mindful of the present moment. Not to just stay and think about, oh my god, the good old days. Let's create the good old days right now. Yeah, trauma exists. I don't want to disregard the importance of it and how it can really guide you. But you can choose. As I said, you can choose not to be guided by it. Now, is it an easy choice? It's a very tough choice. But you just have to get that moment when it just clicks for you and you realize that you can literally not give attention to it. You can just detach from your past. You can just let go of your past. Now, am I a person who is completely free from this? Absolutely not. I'm still work in progress, but as I said, compared to the past, I'm much, much, much better. I really hope my video has been able to guide you and you will find some value in it and you will actually manage to change your situation. But if not, if you're still uncertain about this topic, I highly suggest you read the book The Courage to Be Disliked. Because for me it was a life-changing book, probably, surely top 3 books I ever read, maybe even the best, because it's so insightful. If you want someone to genuinely listen to your life story and your current life situation, I have a link in the description and you can just book a Calendly meeting with me completely for free. And hopefully I will be able to guide you if you feel the need to be guided. See you soon.